All right. So once again, I welcome you back into today's class. So the next topic we're going to be doing right away is implementing security on the network by using firewall. So before we dive into the practical aspects, let's try to understand what a firewall is and how firewall works. So when we're talking about this firewall, what's the function of a firewall? So a firewall is a network security devices that monitor incoming and outgoing network traffic and decide whether to allow or block specific traffic based on a defined set of security rules. So this firewall we're talking about is a network security device that monitor any incoming and outgoing traffic on the network. And one is monitoring all the incoming and outgoing traffic is going to determine maybe to allow or block any specific traffic based on the policy that you have assigned inside the firewall. So firewall is a security device that monitor incoming and outgoing traffic and block or allow based on the specific rules that you have already assigned inside the firewall. So when we're talking about this firewall, a firewall can be hardware. So we can have a firewall that is hardware, which is a physical devices, and we can have a firewall that is software, which is the one that we installed on all the computer. And we can have a software as a service. We have a public cloud or public virtual cloud firewall. So firewall can come in different area, just like hardware. We have software, we have SaaS, and we have a public cloud and private cloud firewall. So what's the function of this firewall as well? This firewall, they establish a barrier between secured and controlled internal network that can be trusted and untrusted outside networks such as the internet. So anytime that we have a secure network and is connecting to unsecure network, we make use of a firewall to secure everything that is going and coming out on the network. So when we're talking about this firewall, we have different types of firewall. We have different types of firewall. The first one here is a proxy firewall. So when we're talking about proxy firewall, what's the function of a proxy firewall? A proxy firewall is a proxy server that can provide additional functionalities such as content caching, security by preventing direct connection from an outside the network. So anytime that you want to prevent a direct connection outside the network, we make use of what we call a proxy firewall. This proxy firewall sometimes is what they call an application firewall. So this guy here provide additional functionalities such as content caching, a security by preventing a direct connection from the outside the network. So the second type of network is what we call an stateful inspection firewall. So stateful inspection firewall allow or block traffic based on a state, ports, or protocol. It monitor all the activity from the opening of a connection until it's closed. So a stateful inspection firewall is a deeply firewall inspection that inspect anything on the network based on the state. Maybe there's a state of there's a state of connection on the network. A state two inspection firewall will be the ones to monitor that particular the traffic. Maybe is to block or allow anything on the network. And this guy as well block or allow traffic based on a port number. So we can block anything based on a port number. Maybe you state a rules that anytime this particular victim tries to access this victim on so port, block it. So this stateful inspection firewall will be inspecting any traffic, and once it see a traffic that met that particular condition, is going to block it immediately. Okay, so that's what we call a stateful inspection firewall. So we have UTM firewall, which is a unified threat management. A UTM device typically combines the function of a stateful inspection firewall with an IPS and antivirus. So when we're talking about a UTM firewall combines the function of a stateful inspection firewall, which is the firewall that can monitor or allow or block traffic based on a state, port number, and protocol. And this firewall can still do the function of a IPS, which is the intrusion prevention system. It's going to preventing any intrusion on the network, and it still go ahead and do the work of a antivirus. When we have any malicious software, it's going to be blocking and removing all those things. So the next type of firewall here is what we call NGFW, which is a next generation firewall. So when we're talking about this next generation firewall, most companies are deploying next generation firewalls to block modern threats such as advanced malware, application layer attack. Nowadays, we have different malware, and we have different ways that a bad guy used to create a malware in a way to still it legitimate as a clean file. But when we're talking about this next generation firewall can detect any type of malware, be you from wherever they are generating all those malware. It can detect a modern threat, all those threats that's coming, which are the new threat that is coming. A next generation firewall can detect it, and it can prevent your network from any application layer attack. So we have different functions of this next generation firewall. The first one here is an intelligence-based access control with stateful inspection. Second one is a integrated IPS, which is a intrusion prevention system that can prevent any intrusion on the network, and an application awareness and controls to see and block risky application. This next generation can detect any application that contain any malicious software. Maybe you downloaded any application on your system and the application is a suspicious application. Next generation can block and delete all those things. And the next function of a next generation firewall is a upgrade path to include feature information feed. So it's going to update your system to the latest in a way that if another new virus is coming, it will be able to detect all those things. And we have techniques to address evolving security threats, URL filtering based on geolocation and reputation. So all these things here are the different functions that a next generation firewall is doing. So when we're talking about this next generation firewall, we have different vendors that they produce this next generation firewall. We have Checkpoint, Palo Alto, we have Fortinet, we have Cisco, we have Juniper, we have Barracuda, we have Sophos, WatchGuard, and Zaizu. So all those guys there are the different vendors that produce next generation firewall. So when you're talking about this firewall security, we have some leaders in this firewall security. So if you check this particular table here, you're going to see that here we have leaders and here we have challengers. The leaders in a firewall security, the first leaders is when we're talking about Fortinet. So Fortinet is the boss when we're talking about a firewall, those vendors that produce firewall. Fortinet is the boss. After Fortinet, we comes to Palo Alto and we comes to Checkpoint. Okay, so all these table here display the leaders which are the best vendors that produce and firewall security. So if you're talking about the dictionary, we have Barracuda, we have a Eastone, Sankford Technologies. So when we're talking about the challengers, we have Cisco, Alibaba Cloud, Juniper, and Huawei. So what about the niche players? So we have Microsoft, Amazon Web Service, Sonic Wall, H3C, WatchGuard, Software, and a Forcepoint. So all these guys there are the different bodies that they produce firewall security. So when we're talking about this firewall here, we can design our firewall in different way. What does this firewall design mean? Anytime you want to use a firewall on your network, how do you design the firewall? Just like a topology. So the first thing here, we have a bastion host. We have a screen subnet, which is also what they call a DMZ, demilitarized zone. We have a dual firewall. So all these things are the topology, which is a way that you can design your firewall. So when we're talking about this bastion host, what does that mean? So here is the diagram on how this bastion host is. This design is used mostly in a small, medium-sized network with just one firewall and one ISP. So when we have a network that is having only one firewall and only have one ISP, that is what we call a bastion host topology. You can see here is the internet, here is the intranet, which is the inner network. And we are using this firewall here to protect this inner network so that anything over the internet is not going to enter the intranet. So this type of topology is what we call a bastion host design. So when we're talking about the second one, which is the DMZ, demilitarized zone, here says this design is used mostly in a small or medium-sized network with just one firewall, one ISP, but have internet-facing server like web server. So let's assume that our organization has a service that we are providing for the general, for the public use, and we want to make sure that that particular service, it is another network different from our intranet. So we can make use of what we call a DMZ, which is a demilitarized zone. There will be another part of a network outside the network that people over the internet will be redirecting to. So this firewall here will be the ones to be blocking any malicious software, any malicious activities that's trying to hit this DMZ and this intranet. So that this type of a design, this type of topology is what we call screened subnet or DMZ design. So yes, says this design is used mostly in a small or medium-sized network with just one firewall, one ISP, but have internet-facing server like web server, email server, and so on. This server must own their own segment, which means that this guy here must be on his own segment, different from the intranet segment. So this guy must be on their own segment, separate switch and subnet called DMZ, so that if one of the server is compromised, the attacker won't be able to reach other system on the LAN. So this type of design is what we call a DMZ. So anytime that any type of a traffic is coming from the internet, the traffic is not going to be able to have access to our inner network. They will only be directing to the DMZ, which is where we have our public service that we render for the public use. So anytime they compromise any type of server switch in this DMZ, is not going to be able to affect our intranet. So this type of design is what we call a screened subnet or DMZ. So the third one here is a dual firewall. So when we're talking about this dual firewall here, we have a single firewall that is securing the internet, and we have another single firewall. So all those two firewall here, they are facing each other. So this design is used mostly in medium-sized or large network with two firewalls, two ISP for high availability, but have internet-facing server like web server, email server, and so on. This server must own their own segment, separate switch and subnet called DMZ, so that if one of the server is compromised, the attacker won't be able to reach other system on the LAN. So this type of a design, which is what we call dual firewall, is when a organization has a two firewall and they have a two ISP. So you can see here we have a two firewall that is facing each other, and we have a two ISP. So it means that this firewall here, they're going to be securing. This one will be securing over here, and another one will be securing the DMZ. And if they are able to attack this DMZ, no way they will be able to have access into our intranet. So this type of design here is what we call a dual firewall design. So the reason why that we have a dual firewall is that we have a two ISP. So here we'll be securing here, here we'll be securing here. And anytime they are able to compromise anything in the DMZ, no way is going to affect our intranet. So all these things here are the theory aspect of this particular firewall. So just put it in mind when we're talking about firewall. Firewall is a network security device that monitor incoming and outgoing traffic and now designed to block or allow based on the rules that you are configured on it. And this firewall can come as hardware, software, SaaS, public cloud, and private cloud. So when we're talking about hardware, it means that there will be a physical devices, hardware devices that you guys are using, just like Fortinet and all those things. But when you're talking about software, software means that there will be a software installed on devices, just like a Windows Defender. All those guys is a software firewall. And we have a SaaS, which is a software as a service. You can you can download all those software of a firewall, just like antivirus on your system. All those guys can work as a firewall as well. So we have a public cloud, which is a firewall that they use to secure the public cloud, and we have a private cloud, which are the firewall used to secure the private cloud. So all those things are the theory aspect of the firewall. So the next thing we'll be moving into now is that we're moving into the practical aspect, which is how to download this firewall and how to make use of the firewall.